Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. May I address this question to the Chief of Staff, General Anyo?
Yes, Your Honor. Please go ahead.
General Anyo, is the military admitting that it could not quell the lawless violence in Marawi City without the extension of martial law?
Your Honor, as I always say, the armed forces will do its job and its mandate whether there is martial law or no martial law. But with martial law, we are able to do our job easier, effectively, and restore normalcy to the soonest possible time.
With the extension of martial law, specifically, what additional powers will be vested and exercised by the military and the armed forces, which they could not avail if martial law is not extended?
Sir, firstly, sir, we have this ongoing rebellion now. And in Marawi, ito lang po yung lugar na napili ng Maute na atakihin nila. It could be other cities also of Mindanao. If you will see, nag-contribute po yung mga Abu Sayyaf sa Basilan, sa Sulu, sa Maguindanao, at yung Maute. Kaya umabot po sila ng 666. Pero ang total po lahat niyan ay 1,200 plus. Meaning to say, all of these groups, sir, ay nag-pledge in other areas. Nakataon lang po na napigilan natin ito because of the martial law also. We are able to restrict the movement of the armed group, preventing the reinforcement of these other groups from Basilan and Sulu to reach Marawi. We are also able to restrict the movement of this armed group to be able to conduct IED bombings in the different cities in support of this ongoing rebellion. Now, we are asking for more time because we do not just want to finish Marawi, but the permanent threat in Mindanao brought by this terrorist group. 600 po itong nandito sa Marawi. Marami pa po sa Sulu at Basilan na pwedeng mag-conduct din ng Marawi siege. With the martial law, we will go now into other phase. Ang unang phase po natin dito, restore Marawi back to normalcy, conduct rehabilitation and reconstruction, and the phase 2 will be to go after the remaining threat groups that pledge allegiance also to Daesh, particularly the Sulu. Mayroon pa po siyang 446 na Abu Sayyaf. 111 po dito sa Basilan. Meron pa po sa Zamboanga at 400 din po sa Maguindanao through the BIFF. So hindi lang po Marawi ang ating pinag-uusapan dito, kundi tapusin na po natin itong grupo na to na nagbibigay ng karahasan at nagre-rebellion dito sa ating bansa, particularly po sa Mindanao.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I think the armed forces of the Philippines and the military, even without the declaration of martial law or its extension, can restrict movements of terrorist groups, not only in Marawi, but in the entire region of Mindanao. It could also foreclose the enforcement of said terrorist forces, and as well as subdue the threats of lawlessness and terrorism in Marawi, in the rest of Mindanao, without any declaration or extension of martial law. Let me go to my next question. Since 23 May 2017 up to today, what is the extent of devastation to Marawi City in terms of deaths, destruction of property, both public and private, as well as displacement of civilians, which is about to loom to a humanitarian crisis?
Well, Your Honor, we regret that there are so many catastrophic and destructive effect of the ongoing rebellion. But it is not the military that caused this, but the multi-ISIS terrorist group who occupied Marawi. And we are doing our very best to be able to end this crisis the soonest possible time so we can start the reconstruction of Marawi.
Don't you think, General, that this horrific aftermath of the declaration of martial law could have been avoided if martial law was not declared, which gave more impetus on the part of the armed forces and the police to intensify its aerial attack and land assaults, so much so that destruction had been wreaked in Marawi City, not only by the so-called terrorists, but also by the attacks and assaults made by the military.
Sir, hindi naman po ang martial law ang nag-cause ng destruction sa Marawi. And pillaging in occupied areas of Marawi. Some of the tactics used by the terrorists include use of sniping, IEDs, burning of buildings, use of drones and night vision goggles, use of basement and tunnels and breaches of buildings in order to change location, and using civilians as human shields and the mosque as their sanctuary. Kaya po tumagal yung labanan dito. Hindi naman po pwede ditong patagin natin ng bomba ito eh. Ang ating pong premium dito is to save lives and be able to minimize destruction of properties. In fact, we have here one lieutenant here together with us who can even describe how the day-to-day fighting is going on in how to clear one building to the next building, one house to the next house, and one floor to the next floor, one chamber to the next chamber. Mahirap po i-describe ito. But all of us in the military organization, isa lang po yung hangad namin dito, to finish this crisis the soonest possible time.
Mr. Speaker, we have heard all of this several times already. But what we would like to know is, to what extent is the devastation in Marawi City attributable to the inordinate assault and attacks done by the military and police forces? Now, let me go to my next question. What is the duration of the extension of martial law which the military and defense establishment recommended to the President?
Sir, can you repeat the question, sir?
What is the duration of the extension of martial law which the military and defense establishment recommended to the President?
We recommended, sir, up to 31 December.
Martial law.
I have addressed my recommendation to the President through the Secretary of National Defense, and I believe I had to get the authority or permission from the President to furnish a copy on whoever wanted to get the copy, Your Honor.
Do you have a copy with you now?
No, Your Honor.
Does Secretary Lorenzan have a copy of his recommendation?
Congressman, no. I have made my recommendation to the President, and whether he used it or not, I think that is already beyond me because it is his prerogative to declare martial law.
Because my recollection,
I inform Representative Lagman that his 4 minutes limit.
Congressman, that is incorrect. We recommended a specific area and a specific time.
okay. Well, just one last question, Mr. Speaker. In Proclamation number 216 and in the President's report to the Congress, the word DIWM, which means Dawatul Islamiyah Waliatul Masrik, was not mentioned. Is that correct?
Your Honor, I'm only particular on my recommendation. On the letter of the President, there is already a lot of input from the different departments as well as with the PNP. So it is the prerogative of the President to craft his own letter to Congress. So for me, it doesn't matter, but it's also mentioned that DAES inspired. DAES is the same as the DIWM.
Well, I'm just saying that this word DIWM was not in the President's proclamation and report, and it appears in his letter to the Congress for extension. It would seem that the President wants to aggravate the situation by putting additional facts in the letter for extension, which did not appear in the original proclamation.